Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Brain Academy YouTube channel. As you may be aware, the Brain Academy has been specifically set up to consider the contents of the Quran in totality. The Quran itself confirms that it is guidance in Surah 2 Ayah 2, Surah 2 Ayah 38, Surah 3 138, Surah 4 115, amongst other places. It considers itself to be Al-Huda, the guidance. The question we ought to ask is, to what extent is it to be considered guidance? Is it partial guidance? Is it 20% guidance? Is it 40% guidance? Or is it guidance in totality? Just before we go into the details, a quick mention about the detractors of the Quran. There are many detractors who, in their ignorance respectfully, will suggest that the Quran is but a mere writings of a man or a group of men. I would suggest that the detractors, and I can assure the detractors, that if they were to consider the Quran logically, rationally, and reasonably, they will on an evidential basis come to the conclusion that the Quran is but the revelation from the Creator Supreme Allah. I mention Allah because if the Quran is guidance in totality, and on an evidential basis it will also contain the necessary information for the human beings to know what the Creator is and what the Creator cannot be. By definition, if it is guidance in totality, then it will also contain the correct information in relation to our connection with the Creator Supreme. Now, as far as the Quran is concerned, it is established beyond doubt that the Quran is a revelation from the Creator Supreme. As such, the guidance will contain all the information that we will be privy to, but also the information will be specifically for our benefit and use. Now, if we consider the Quran from that perspective, we will also realize that the Quran is not a religious text. The word religious, we are going to be running a series of programs on our All Truth Revealed channel considering words and how words matter. You will find when you watch the programs that words and the way they are being utilized, sometimes commonly, when you look at the origin of those words, you will come to the realization that it may not be entirely appropriate to be using those words for particular aspects. I am aware that words have to be carefully chosen in conversation. On that basis, and once we air those programs, inshallah, the Creator willing, and you watch them, you will come to the realization that the word religion cannot be applied to Islam, nor can the word religious be applied to the Quran. This distinction that I am making will become even clearer when we look at the Quran in the context of guidance. If we were to say that the Quran contains a statement about a particular science, the question will arise, if it is contained in the Quran, as to whether the statement is to be considered a scientific statement, or is it to be considered a religious statement? Or is it to be considered both? I would submit from the Quranic perspective, it is a statement concerning information about the natural world, and that information is contained in the Quran for the benefit of human beings. And as such, it is a statement based on knowledge. This is a very important distinction I would submit to the viewers. You will find that the word science derives from the word scientia. And the word scientia means knowledge. Now, for some odd reason, the word science seems to have taken a life of its own. It has become very restrictive. So where you have got knowledge which clearly is of benefit to human beings, but does not fit within the criteria of science and the scientific method, it is dismissed. That is a very odd way of looking at knowledge, I would submit. And in that respect, the Quran has got it entirely correct. It contains information about the natural world. Not only that, I would suggest that the Quran contains information and knowledge about history, archaeology, physics, biology, astrophysics, chemistry, paleontology, psychology, etc., etc. But I would also submit that this information that is contained in the Quran is in the context of knowledge. Knowledge that, if we extract from the Quran, would be of benefit to humanity and other living entities also. So, in relation to the statement being contained in the Quran as to whether it is a scientific statement or a religious statement, I would submit that one, the word science has been very restrictive, but if you look at its origin, you will find it actually means knowledge. The Quran contains revelation from the Creator Supreme, and that again collectively can be considered knowledge. And as such, these subjects that I mentioned, archaeology, paleontology, etc., are aspects of study which collectively can only logically be considered to be knowledge. I would submit that the Quran contains all this information, and it is for us to extract that information and utilize the same. The Brain Academy, inshallah, the Creator willing, is also going to be considering some of the statements in the Quran which will require initiating a study at a very, very deep and advanced level. As an example, Surah 27, Ayah 36 to 40. In those particular statements in the Quran, it mentions an event that took place in history. It talks about personalities, individuals who were named. One of them was Sulaiman, a mighty messenger of the Creator, and also a queen, her name being Bilqis in the Quran. Now, an amazing set of information, for want of a better word or phrase, is mentioned in those verses. We are told that Sulaiman, a mighty messenger of the Creator, had invited the queen Bilqis, but he asked his close associates a very peculiar question. And the question was whether any one of those in the group were capable of transporting the throne of this queen from whatever location it was at to the location where they were present. The Quran narrates to us that a particular being, an Ifrit, speaks and states to Sulaiman, a mighty messenger of the Creator, peace be upon him. The Ifrit mentions to Sulaiman, I will be able to transport this throne from its current location to our location within a certain amount of time, because I possess the physical strength to be able to carry out the task. But then another individual who possessed the knowledge. Now I would submit here that a distinction is being made that we need to consider. And the distinction being that the Ifrit mentions the fact that it possessed the physical strength to be able to carry out the task. So I would suggest that it is inferring that the amount of time it would have taken for him, the Ifrit was going to physically transport this particular throne. The statements, however, in the Quran suggest to us that a person who possessed the knowledge then spoke up and said to the king Sulaiman, peace be upon him, that he was able to transport that throne in the twinkling of an eye. And he did it. I would submit that there are a multitude of questions that we are going to ask. Just before I go on, may I make this clear that these are questions that are being asked because I am confident that when the Quran has mentioned them and we undertake the extraction of this information from the Quran and follow it up, we will come to the realization that what the Quran contains is truly from the Creator. I'm not saying this. The Quran is actually mentioning it in Surah 41, Ayah 53, where the Creator Supreme informs humanity that we are going to make you look on the horizons and within yourselves until it is manifest to you that this is the truth. Now, many questions can arise if we but deeply reflect on the statements. So, going back to this incredible information that we are given about an event that occurred in history. A person with knowledge managed to transport this throne in the twinkling of an eye. There are questions that will arise, as I suggested, and one of the questions would be, surely wherever it actually was taken from would have been a particular location. Now, it would actually beg the question as to why no potential expedition has been undertaken to confirm the location of this particular kingdom of Bilqis. Not only that, a more crucial question would be that if, and as the Quran has confirmed, if this particular individual with knowledge was able to transport the throne from whatever location it was to the location that they were present at, then surely somebody would have noticed it go missing from that location. There must be information somewhere which can actually be found to confirm what the Quran is saying. Now, the other question that we have to ask ourselves is that when this particular individual who possessed the knowledge transported the throne in the twinkling of an eye, he did it in the context of time and space. And as such, I would submit that what we would only today consider very advanced understanding of the laws contained within the universe, a very advanced understanding is potentially possible if we look at the right place. And I will confidently submit that when we do that, it will merely confirm what the Quran has informed us about. So, if you look at the Quran, you find that it contains incredible information which we, as Muslims, I will submit, should now try and seek the evidence for. If I were to give another example, we find in Surah 11, Ayah 44, it mentions the ark of Noah, or Nuh, another mighty messenger of the Creator Supreme. It talks about the vessel, the ship, and where it landed. We are informed in the Quran that the ark or the vessel landed on Mount Judy. Just that statement in Surah 11, Ayah 44, if we were to consider it carefully, we will find two things. Number one, when this particular information was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, it either was new information that was being provided which they were not privy to, or they were aware of where this particular location, Mount Judy, was. Just a brief mention that the Bible contains a similar story, but it talks about the Mount Ararat. So you find that the Quran has mentioned a particular location, a geographical location. The question that I'm asking myself is, why have we not undertaken any expeditions to establish what the Quran actually is stating? This is yet another question that we have to ask ourselves as Muslims. All the information that is contained in the Quran for the benefit of humanity, in fact for the benefit of all living entities, it is pointing us to certain facts. It is for us now to take up the mantle and try and make amazing discoveries using the Quran, not only for the benefit of humanity, but also clearly confirming the contents of the Quran being nothing but the revelation from the Supreme Creator Allah. Now, that was another one. You will note there are a plethora of statements that are contained in the Quran which, if investigated, would lead to cutting-edge discoveries. That is my humble submission. Yet another one. Consider what are known as the sleepers, contained in Surah 18, verse 10 to 27. It talks about a group of youths who are put to sleep for a few hundred years. Amazingly, these particular individuals went to sleep. The verses in the Quran talk to us and tell us that these particular individuals were turning to the right, were turning to the left. They were alive. But if you look carefully at the statements, They mention the fact that for over 300 years they slept. Yet, in the normal course of events, I would submit that we as human beings, if we look at everything, we will find that aging takes place, withering takes place, and finally death takes place. Yet in this instance, the aging process seems to have been suspended. Not only that, for over 300 years, their vital organs, everything was functioning. Now again, I would submit that if we were to look at these verses very, very carefully, there is a huge amount of information that we can extract. And if we were to follow that up and initiate studies, as I said, we will end up with cutting edge discoveries. Now, just looking at the sleepers, we find that an amazing set of circumstances have arisen. They are asleep, not dead. Their aging process has been suspended. They are being turned from left to right. I'm sure a lot of people will be aware that when a person is bedridden, they are turned every so often so that bed sores do not result. That is just one aspect. But I would submit that if we are to look deeper, we will find incredible information that would be of benefit to humanity. As I said, it would be cutting edge discoveries. But in order to do that, we have to take this leap to initiate investigations, studies, etc. Now, in that respect, we know that there is subject matter today which is being studied: cryptobiosis, cryogenetics. Now, it is amazing to think that the Quran contains this information and we merely need to take it up, take up the challenge that the Quran has laid out. I would submit that one of the issues that we need to firstly deal with is not to allow what I would consider to be a foreign mindset influencing how we look at the Quran. I would submit that what we should be doing is looking at what the Quran tells us and how to extract the information with the correct mindset. As I said, if we were to look at the Quran the way the Quran intends us to look at the Quran, we will find that this distinction that we have between religious and scientific actually disappears. Another thing that I would mention very briefly, and inshallah, the Creator willing, we will be discussing in detail in future episodes, is this distinction between what we would consider to be worldly matters and Islamic matters. Or basically, in the Urdu or Arabic languages, we use the word dunya and deen. This distinction, I respectfully will submit, needs to be re-evaluated in the context of how the Quran requests us to approach knowledge. As I stated earlier, the Quran is a comprehensive book of guidance. We are all aware that it came down in a particular unique method of revelation. But collectively today, it is a book. This book in totality is guidance. And what we ought to consider is how to demolish this unfortunate mindset that we may have developed of having a secular view of life and a religious view of life. And you will notice that we, without perhaps realizing, that we indulge in a conflict constantly. I would submit that if we were to look at life the way the Quran requests us to look at life and the mindset that we should develop, all these conflicts that are very apparent would disappear. And we as human beings then would have one cohesive outlook. And that outlook would lead us to peace, security, and tranquility. So in the final analysis, I would suggest that we need to look at the Quran the way the Quran intends us to look at the Quran, and also re-evaluate all the statements that are contained in the Quran and how we can extract potentially cutting edge discoveries from the Quran. But it requires a very, very concerted effort, and in that respect, the Brain Academy, inshallah, the Creator willing, is going to put that effort in trying to establish the true intent of why the Quran says what it does. I must also finally note that in our endeavors, we are going to be utilizing the Quranic standard and also the prophetic guidance and also the scholarly community's views on how subject matter ought to be approached. Inshallah, the Creator willing, in the next episode that we will air on the Brain Academy channel is going to be about how and why the universe and everything in it exists from the Quranic perspective. Till then, inshallah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.